a good use of our funds.
And then the last thing, I think a lot of folks are here for the library, maybe not this question, but can you give me an idea, or give the board an idea of what we have budgeted for the library, and then what it would take if we stayed with the FRL now that Jackson County has decided to withdraw from the FRL, what that looks like?
Yes. So this year, the request from the FRL for the Macon County Library system was $1,628,276. I obviously, you know by now by looking at your budget, I did not plug that dollar figure into our proposed budget. The figure that I plugged in was $1,249,601. And the reason that I got to that figure, I looked at the Macon County expenses, did a reasonable cost analysis looking at the figures on what the added expense was for the FRL, because obviously those expenses went up because now you're sharing some back office type things, some other things, because of you only got 2 counties. But I also knew that there were some discussions going on, and there was a meeting the other day with the local library board, and we talked about the reconciliation of excess fund balance at the end of the year. The dollar figures will come back to us, but remember we passed an agreement in February, March that had some provisions in there that any excess funds would be returned back to the county above and beyond what the normal fund balance was. So the figure that was given to us that would come back this year is $525,000, a little over that. So to me, my logic was they do still have a fund balance. We're having to use some of our fund balance, but FRL does have a fund balance. But there's also going to be a $500,000 plus payment coming back to us. So it didn't make a lot of sense for me to budget an extra couple $100,000 knowing that they're going to turn around and give us a couple $100,000 back. So I figured we needed to have some conversation somewhere with them, talk through that. The dollar figure that we had last year that we budgeted for the library was $1,225,634. So we're slightly above what we budgeted last year. They had some salary increases and some basic operating stuff. So in my opinion, and obviously we can set a time to talk to those people later, I think that's enough to get us started, to get us going, reconcile the money's coming back in, and instead of just having checks crossing the mail somewhere, we sit down and have a conversation and figure out how we're going to do that. And then your other question was?
Well, just the difference in what it would cost, or we've budgeted pretty much year over year, versus what it would cost to continue in the FRL, now that Jackson County's been out, which is about $379,000 this year.
That's correct. In Jackson County, I actually looked at their budget. If you take last year's appropriation they had for their library system versus what they're paying this year they're supposed to be an independent library system. It's about 31% more than what they had last year, which if you plug that number into us, it would put us right around, if I took last year's money and plugged 31% in, it puts us about at $1,605,000. That's worst case if you figure percentage for percentage. Now, there's obviously some other things in there that you need to consider that may be different here. So I don't obviously have an exact number. I think your dollar figure would be somewhere between the $1,249,000 we have now and the $1,600,000 that the FRL needs. I think your figure's going to lie somewhere in there. But I do think, obviously we're talking about the budget, I think at some point we need to have a conversation with FRL and talk through that process. They are still in the process of reconciling the last formula, verifying the numbers. I actually understand better now their calculation. They are they're calculating their minimum fund balance that they recommend. They're taking the excess of that and they're dividing it by the percentage that the county's paid in and returning that excess money back to the counties based on that percentage. So you get back your excess share of those funds. Well then, obviously, Jackson County's leaving, so now you don't have to have as much of a fund balance, so therefore, they're gonna take their share of the fund balance. The fund balance required will be less. And we just really need to probably have a good conversation about that and sit down and work through that, what we're gonna do going forward, now that there's only 2 counties involved with that.
What kind of conversation did we have with Swain County?
So I've actually reached out to them. Their county manager is actually technically already retired, but is staying on for like a week or two with Mr. Dills, who's the new county manager over there. So I was going to reach out to them and just touch base with them and see how they were navigating the same process, because I'm sure they're having the same discussions with the budget issues this year that we are.
I did watch a part of one of their commission meetings, and they were talking about the budget, and it seems to me like it was, they were talking about it was going to cost another $200,000 plus when Jackson County leaves.
And obviously, we don't want to short the services at the library. We want to make sure that those stay on par with what they are. Just felt like rather than us moving money to this account, because in turn going to turn and move money back to this account, let's sit down and they spent a lot of time and effort on the financial end of that to figure out the financial part of it. I figured we needed to do some due diligence to work through that. So that was the method behind the dollar figure that I put in the budget. And there's also, if you look at those numbers, they also budgeted a contingency number. There's $40,750 that they budgeted an operating expense for contingency funds. So I backed those out too, and just funded the operating monies that I could come up with.
So if you were to summarize that, what is our net gain or loss if we were to operate a library?
I don't know the exact figure. I mean, it would be somewhere, I don't know that you could get it any less than what you're funding now. I would have to have some more detail on what the FRL back part covers to have that discussion. It's somewhere in the middle of it.
But this year, we've got $1,249,601 budgeted.
That's correct.
And FRL, if we stay, it's $1,628,276. Basically $379 difference.
$1,628,676. That was their request. And then the distribution that we're supposed to get back whenever that happens, pending final reconciliation, making sure all the numbers are correct, is $525,401.97.
And I'm not sure this is a proper question. What would the conversation, what would this all look like in 3 years?
I don't know that I can answer that.
Okay, I can't either, so I just didn't know. So it'd be just Macon County. Swain be on their own, Jackson on their own.
At the moment, the FRL is still
Swain.
in existence. There's just 2 counties now instead of 3. So, well, at the moment, there's 3 counties, but if Jackson County goes through with their withdrawal, which it looks like according to the budget documents they will, July 1, there will only be 2 counties in the FRL.
That's when you talked about leaving us there.
I do not know the answer to that.
What kind of, I don't have an answer to that 10-year contract or agreement that we went into, that goes out the door?
No, your agreement is actually still good. Of course, Jackson County would not be a party after the withdrawal takes place on July 1, so the only 2 parties to that agreement would then be you and Swain. But the agreement still stands.
So we take on all the additional funds from Jackson.
That was the proposal, that was the division on the request from FRL. And there again, one of the provisions that for the distribution of funds back to Macon County, the $525,000 and some change, one of the stipulations for that was that the funds had to be set aside for library use. So their request was when they sent the funds back to us that $525,000 be set aside for library use. So in the event that you required more money than the $1,249,601 that I budgeted, you'd have the $525,000 sitting there somewhere that you could use for whatever other library purpose.
And I may be out of line here in this question. Under 14 appointments tonight, Macon County Public Library Board of Trustees, 3 seats. Does that need to stop?
You still have a board, so it's entirely up to you as far as those appointments. You're appointing to the local library board of trustees, so that board still stands. The FRL board still stands. However, it's my assumption that Jackson County members will go off. So there will be less members on the FRL board, but your members will still stay put. You still have a board that exists.
They can still operate without Jackson County.
Yes.
How many is that?
On your board?
Yeah.
You have a 9-member board. You have 3 members that are expiring maybe today or tomorrow. So, yes, you have 9 members.
On the FRL, like after Jackson leaves, that leaves 6.
Yes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Did you say the FRL? How many are on the FRL board?
There'll be 6.
Yeah, how many on the FRL?
6.
6 will be left.
I guess I'm not seeing the future other than voting on 3 people tonight. What is the purpose? Should we delay that vote? Or should we get some more information coming to us?
We can certainly have a discussion about that, absolutely. I don't know if you want to do that now or if you want to wait till we do the
So
budget.
there are 2 different boards. You've got the Macon County Library Board, and then you've got the FRL Board. So you appoint the 3 members to the FRL Board, and you appoint all 9 members to the Macon Board. Tonight, there are 3 members that are up are for the Macon County Board. That is not for the Fontana Regional Library Board.
So I guess my question is Macon County, are we capable of operating a library, offering the same services as FRL? I mean, what's so special about FRL other than it's a 3-county? I mean, why, I guess my question is, why would we put the taxpayers paying another $400,000 to operate a library if we're not losing any services? And the library is never going to slow down to exist or to operate. I mean, that makes no sense to me. That it's going to cost the taxpayers of this county $400,000 just to stay in FRL?
Basically, if we go independent, will we retain the same services as if we were with FRL?
I think we should, yes. If you're asking me, can we do it for the $1,249,601? I don't know that I can 100% answer that question for you tonight. We can certainly get to a figure. And if you're asking me if we can run a library, we will follow the direction of the board. I think that depends on what you tell us to do.
So the FRL would dissolve itself because you just have Swain. I mean, you wouldn't have FRL anymore, right?
The agreement is, Eric, you correct me if I'm wrong, but if two of the members leave the system, basically the FRL dissolves. Correct.
Right, so if, you have to give a year's notice, so if you were going to Right now, it's set up with Jackson, Swain, and Macon. Jackson actually contributes slightly more than Macon County, and so you have a book share basically with those libraries, so that there's a mobile unit that runs around with books, and you can also share the audio books through the Libby app with those 3 libraries. With Jackson contributing a little more, they would have, presumably, they would be contributing more, so therefore you would access to all their books. As it exists today, as it exists July 1, you would lose Jackson. You would still have Swain, so the question then is, if it costs more to run in order to continue that with just Swain, is it in the board's or the county's best interest to continue to try to run it as an FRL board with just Swain and what limited resources that they provide, and that they're only, 8% of what is their total contribution to FRL?
6%?
6 out of and so if Jackson's a little more, so we would, basically, it's your call, and you look at the finances, I think, versus the benefit you might be getting from what is a smaller contribution from Swain. Is it worth it? But the point of what I was saying earlier was, if you are going to withdraw, you have to give a year's notice so that it is figured into next year's budget. So if you could give notice before July 1 that, yeah, we need to explore the option of withdrawing, so we're going to go ahead and give notice of withdrawal tonight or sometime before July 1st, and then you would have a full year to decide whether or not you were going to follow through with that or not. But you do have to give that notice if you're going to do it. We don't know what Swain's planning on doing, but if you gave notice tonight, you would still have a year to make up your mind if you actually wanted to follow through with withdrawal or not. But you do have to give that notice, and you have to give that notice both to the state library board as well as to Swain and the FRL.
Okay. Now, the people, the number of people who inquired about the vote being a candidate tonight, what if they change their mind? If this thing's going to dissolve, and we got people here that we're going to vote tonight.
Your Macon County Library Board is going to stay. This is just for the Macon County Library Board tonight. This is not for the Fontana Regional Library Board that you're voting on tonight. So the Fontana Regional Library Board could go away. The Macon County Library Board still would stay because you still have to run the Macon County Library.
Right. I guess my question still is, the people who put their name on the list, if they had known what we're talking about here, would they have made the same decision about running?
Yes.
You would? Okay. Okay.
But, Mr. Shields, that's what we're talking about is the budget, and they're asking for us to budget $1.6 million. This all has come out in this budget process, not necessarily in the application process of the library board. So the discussion is now is financially, do we stay or do we go? And it makes no sense to me. I'm not worried about applications. I'm worried about what makes sense for the library system for the Macon County residents and the taxpayers of this county. And pay an additional $400,000 the way that it looks. I'm sure we own the property and everything else that we have some very intelligent people in Macon County that can certainly run this library system.
I guess my question still goes back with what we're talking about here, but I think I saw the nods. Those people would still be interested even if we pulled out. They're still interested. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think we can probably get deep into that conversation. I think the biggest question you need at the moment is, are you comfortable with that $1,249,601 figure in the budget this year? Also knowing that we're gonna get hopefully $525,000 and some change back soon.
That's the max.
At the max. Are you comfortable with that number of budget? And then once, we can obviously get deeper into this conversation.
Yeah. No.
Some other time if you want to.
No, I agree. I think it's time to recenter and focus on the budget. Fiscal year 27 budget. Gentlemen, what do you think about the allocation in the proposed budget? Are you okay with that? Yes. Yes. You good with that? You good with that, Mr. Shields?
If y'all are good with it, yeah.
All right, well, any other thoughts, comments, discussion about the budget? Additions to the agenda?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think, given the discussions we were just having about the library, it might be appropriate that we had the library as an agenda item.
I had a feeling that was coming.
And go ahead and just discuss this thing out. I don't know where we put that in new business.
We'll go new business, item B. All right. Any other additions? All right. We'll enter the public comment period. All right, we've got 2 pages of public comment, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first name for the speaker to come speak, and I'm going to go ahead and read the second name who's on deck, just in case they're in the back room, just to expedite this. And I'm usually pretty friendly about the 3-minute time frame, but today I'm going to raise my hand with about 5 seconds left, and just please finish your statement and let's move on. I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak. All right. First speaker is Patricia Trick, and Mr. William Trick, you're on deck.
Ready to swing.
You can stay seated, just be ready.
I'm here tonight for a couple of different reasons. I guess I should come more often. First of all, I want to say thank you to each of you for your service to Macon County. I also want to publicly thank Leah Gaston, Diane Catlin, and Justin Boner for their service with the Macon County Library Board. And as we've all heard tonight, I'm liking this library board into kind of like redoing your living room. And you go in and you're like, I want to change out the carpet. And that's kind of where we were. We didn't like what we were seeing when we walked into the library. And then when we get in there and you pull up the carpet, then you realize that the subfloor needs to be done. And then you get that done and you see that, you know, the walls need to be painted and you need new carpet or curtains. So I would like to encourage you that, especially if we are going to be looking at changing and pulling out of the FRS, that we keep these 3 dedicated people on the board and encourage them to, because they have the knowledge and because they've walked through this whole process with us, that we don't take them out early and let them finish the ball game. The second thing that I'm here for, as you know, I'm the chair of the Republican Party here in Macon County, and I have one of the fun things that I get to do is encourage people to run for office. And I had the encounter yesterday of having a young woman who wanted to run for school board, and she went to the Board of Elections and they couldn't tell her which district she would run in. There's no clear districts. And I had asked before, it's Nantahala, it's Highlands, and it's Franklin. But there's no real clear delineation on where things are. So the Board of Elections is amazing, and they sat down and they really worked on it pretty much all day yesterday to figure out where the lines were. And they came up with a document that actually only made things worse, because now, and I'm going to use myself as an example. I live off Ella J Road, District 1 for the County Commissioners. My grandson, who lives right next to me, goes to East Franklin Elementary. According to the school district map, I am in the Franklin districts, which would be 2 or 4. Well, I guess 4 is so confusing. But it would be District 2. But according to the documents that they put out yesterday, I would be in District 1, which means that either A, Jack needs to go to a Highland school, or B, or B, that we need to move those lines. So all of that,
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm gonna be a
sorry.
stickler right here.
all of that to say, when you guys do redistricting, work with the school board, please.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Sorry to be that guy. Mr. Trick.
Finish it.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here to ask you to reappoint Justin, Diana, and Leah to the Macon County Library Board. These folks have put a lot of time and effort into getting this going in the right direction. And I also want to urge you to pull out a FRL. Give that notice now so that you can make that decision in a timely fashion. I don't have a lot else to say, except that I do appreciate the obvious amount of work that has gone into this budget. I was looking at it yesterday. It's, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trick. Dr. Joanne Rossner. And Mr. DeVille, you're up next.
In an interesting time, my bibliography of biblical references will be sent to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I start with these comments. There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to...
Back off.
Oh.
There you go.
All right, give me a couple extra seconds. The principle is contempt prior to investigation. That's from Herbert Spencer. It's published in the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. Not all persons of Christian faith are represented by the narrow views of Diane Catlin, Leah Gaston, and Justin Bonner. Scriptural support exists for patience, peace, and tolerance, and for love of all. Nowhere in the Bible does Jesus himself make a comment on homosexuality. I bring to light an act of great disdain on the part of Jesus in overturning the tables of the money changers in the temple. Make of that what you will when billionaires rule. Our request on behalf of all Macon citizens that you state tonight and publish in a public forum afterwards your objective criteria for candidate selections. Please make available a public comparison of applicants that were on the following metrics so that we can be confident these were considered in each case. Relevant professional and personal experience, knowledge, qualifications, and existing skill set, demonstrated public service and volunteerism in our community, demonstrated ability to listen to disparate views and consider them in policy decisions, ability to weigh and consider all evidence and represent that in fair governance, ability to represent clear adherence to the separation of church and state in governmental affairs, commitment to intellectual freedom, understanding that libraries represent an entire community, demonstrated respect for subordinates and employees when in a position of leadership, demonstrated ability to suspend personal agendas and act collaboratively. In closing, I remind each of you that the Library Board is a governmental body serving to represent all, not a forum for exercise of faith. Macon County is not yet Iran, where an Ayatollah dictates what we can read. Act to prevent this from occurring in Macon County.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. John DeVille.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Amy Medlock,
Commissioners.
Sorry.
Just a brief history lesson. 1890s, a group, mostly women, teenage women, put together the first library in this county. By 1901, it moves right behind us here to the Masonic Lodge, where it is until 1941. We get some state funds. Lassie Kelly, who is the ramrod of that original library movement, she gets funds from the state to buy a 36 Chevy truck, and there's your first bookmobile. 55, we moved to the Iola Street location that still has the crab orchard stone on the facing of it. 1974, we became the Macon County Public Library System. I heard a reference a minute ago about taking up the carpet and getting into the subflooring. About what's going on with the library is a renovation. For the last 4 years, it has felt far more like a demolition. And we're seeing discussion of further demolition tonight. And given 130 years of work that has gone into creating this tradition that we have in these counties, it is heartbreaking to hear cheering for demolition. Our history suggests to me that we are better than what we have recently experienced. And so when you go to make those tough decisions tonight on who to appoint to the board, I hope you consider the 130 years of work that has gone into creating this library system, the traditions, and maybe we turn the page away from the chaos and the rancor and the divisiveness that has plagued the library system and plagued the boardrooms of 3 counties for the last few years. Thank you all very much for all of your work.
Thank you, Mr. Bill. Amy Medlock in Doreen Castle, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. Tonight I choose to tell you why the public library is important to me. I was born into a high-controlled religion. It is considered a cult by some. As a child, despite my curiosity, it was frowned upon to ask questions about other religions or faiths. As a young teenager, it was frowned upon to discuss sexuality or ask questions that didn't align with the beliefs of those around me. Those questions could be answered in a book written by our religious leaders tailored to young people or from the Bible. As an older teenager, when all my classmates were talking about college and filling out applications, I sat on the sidelines acting uninterested because college was not allowed in my world. I wasn't going to be allowed the education I would need to be who I wanted to be. The library for me was freedom. I learned the answers to my questions about my body and my own personal views on sexuality. No matter what I read, they didn't change who I was. I learned about other religions and faiths that weren't like the ones I was born into. I learned what a cult was. The library stacks are where I dreamed of college, a career that I wanted, and places I wish I could see. The library is where I discovered my love of history. It's where I traveled to art museums and historic churches. And as an adult, the library is where I learned about my baby and how she was growing, because I couldn't afford to buy the books I desperately wanted to read as a first-time young mom. The most amazing thing about our library is that it's neutral ground. It doesn't separate the rich from the poor. It doesn't care what political party you vote for. And it doesn't care what religion you choose for yourself. Excuse me. It's a welcoming place for all, to those who may not be able to find the answers elsewhere, and to those who just want to learn privately on their own terms. The library isn't just books or subject matter. It's the epitome of freedom and choice. You are being asked to change the foundational terms of our public libraries. They are asking you to place more value on their opinions and beliefs than those in the entire community. Ideally, tonight's trustee appointees will come from various backgrounds, experiences, and qualifications in order to ensure representation for all residents and any who visit our community. Your decision will either change or protect access experienced at our library. Your decision will either tell us that you support and want to protect our First Amendment rights, or that you have no interest in doing so. Personally, I really look forward to knowing where you stand on that.
Very much.
Thank you, Amy. Doreen Castle and Vic Green, you're up next.
I'm Doreen Castle, Treasurer for the Veterans Memorial of Macon County Committee, which was established when plans and construction of the memorial began around 2009. There are 6 veterans that form this committee today. In addition, there are 3 original members, or as I like to refer to them, as the Founding Fathers, are still alive, and we confer with them on any actions that involve the memorial. We continue to hold true to the original intent and their wishes. We need to keep in mind that this is a memorial to the veterans, hence the name Veterans Memorial. The memorial is where family, friends, and visitors can come to a beautiful place with a picturesque view of our Great Smoky Mountains, see the lush green grass with professionally manicured shrubbery, and feel the cool mountain breeze, all while peacefully remembering those who swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This is not a museum where anyone can put military artifacts such as a Navy 50 cal gun, a fighter aircraft, Apache helicopter, or an Abrams tank. We also turned down a potential request to bury a large casket full of memorabilia to be used as a time capsule. Someone else wanted a small concrete monument surrounded by a flower garden. These things are not what our founding fathers wanted, nor does the current committee. The committee has always had oversight for and funded the maintenance and upkeep of the grounds, monuments, flagpoles, and flags. The committee replaces all the flags twice a year, lowers the flagpoles and washes them annually before the Memorial Day ceremony, orders, installs, and levels the veteran bricks and walkways, to name a few recurring maintenance issues. We also lower and raise the flags when notified by the governor or president. In 2025, the paint department of LBJ Job Corps graciously repainted our eagle, with the memorial only paying for the paint. Then the shingles on the shelter were replaced for $7,564. The shelter was restained for $2,500, and the rock wall that fell down was $3,850. In 2024, we paid $750 for an architect and $1,500 for a field survey to help with the layout for the new Space Force flagpole, monument, and walkway. The flagpole cost was $2,492, and a new granite monument for the timeline section was $1,500. All of these expenses were paid by the Veterans Memorial of Macon County. Travis Waldrop from Macon County Maintenance Department and his team have assisted in electrical and water projects, but the majority of labor and expense has fallen on the Memorial Committee. Being aware of the long-standing and vital role that the Veterans Memorial of Macon County Committee has had on the memorial, we ask that you would look to the committee for input before taking any action at the memorial. We also ask that you keep the original intent and wishes of the Founding Fathers as a guide to future decisions. And lastly, we know the Veterans Memorial is county property, but even as county property, the Veterans Memorial Committee has proven they have a vested interest financially, physically, and emotionally. Please help the veterans and the county work as a team on future projects and actions to make this a memorial we can all be proud of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Vic Green and Margaret Pickett, you're up next.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate every one of you individually for the service that you render to Macon County. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the fact that you allow all of us as community members to share our opinions and insights, our perspectives with you as we're considering, as you're considering the appointment of members to the library board. Groucho Marx once said, "I find television very educational. The minute somebody turns it on, I go to the library and read a good book." Now, like Groucho, I'm a huge fan of libraries. I chose to work in the libraries of the school and seminary that I attended to help pay my way through school. And it was a privilege for me as a former member of the Macon County Library Board to take part in the planning and fundraising for our current library. I remember what a community process this was. I remember the pride that our community felt at our library's completion. And in that, since then, I've enjoyed a variety of experiences there, films, concerts, lectures, and meetings. My hope for you is that you will choose board members representing diverse backgrounds, people who know that libraries can be life-enhancing if it is integrated into the life of our community. Our library best serves its purpose when you respond to the varied interests and needs of the citizens of Macon County. Allow me to encourage you to appoint board members who will do all they can to increase the breadth and depth of our minds and hearts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Lisa Walker, you're up next.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Margaret Pickett, and you may recognize me from my application for the library board. I just wanted to fill in some blanks. I don't know whether to be very casual with y'all or very formal, but I wanted to fill in some blanks that the application process didn't allow for. Last November, while serving as a poll greeter, I overheard a conversation between two women. One was telling the other, inviting her, this was in Highlands, was inviting her to come to their church. She said, "Our church is very involved in the community. We have 3 members sitting on the library board." That really struck me because I thought, how few people must have applied for the library board for them to take 3 very obviously like-minded people onto the board as members. So that was what kind of started my impulse to apply this year. I'm a resident of Highlands, but I grew up as an Army brat. I also married an Army brat, very common with military kids, and I raised my children as Army brats. If you're familiar with the life of a military family, it's very nomadic. My parents were more nomadic than most. I just counted the other day. I moved 44 times in my life. I have lived in Highlands. I have owned this house now only 13 years, but it's the longest I've ever lived or known any house. It was the library, moving around from post to post, that really made me feel at home. Every time I went into a post library, it was a familiar place. The books were familiar. I knew the people in those books, and then I got to read new books that broadened my experience of life and people. And it gave me a sense of community that you don't often get in the military. When you're moving, your friend's moving, or they've just come in. Libraries provided the same sense of belonging to my children growing up, and they were not only inspired to read, but to write books. After 20 years of teaching math to middle and high schoolers, my son has just published his first young adult novel this year. You can imagine how that makes me feel as a mother. Their love of books supported by libraries has been passed down to their children. I have 11 grandchildren, 9 of which are teenagers. And their trips to the Hudson Library, every time they came to visit, was the first thing that we always did. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Lisa Walker.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen.
Peggy Soleil, you're up
Okay,
next.
I'll be really fast, but I do want to weigh in. You know I always want to weigh in. Unfortunately, at some of the past library board meetings, members of the current board have lacked professional decorum and have disparaged highly qualified library staff, creating a culture of division, stress, and instead a culture of walking on new carpet, it's a culture of walking on eggshells. You have in front of you some very strong candidates, teachers, tutors, former librarians, and Macon residents with a proven track record of leadership and community building. I hope that you use this as an opportunity to create a new, welcoming, professional library board that will serve our entire community with excellence and will embody our fundamental democratic values. Thank you.
Peggy Slay. Peggy, oh, there's, I'm sorry. And Kathy Stevens is up next.
Hi, I'm Peggy Slay from Otto, and I want to share my concerns and recommendations for tonight's library board appointments by reading my recent email to you, Josh, if you don't mind. Mind? Okay, it just said, hi Josh, I'm writing to urge you and the other Macon County Commissioners not to reappoint the 3 members on the Macon County Library Board whose terms are up in June. That's Leah Gaston, Diane Catlin, and Justin Bonner. Over the last several years, I've attended many Macon County Library Board and Fontana Regional Library Board meetings, and I have witnessed unprofessional behavior, particularly with Diane. Who strangely professes to be an etiquette expert. I was present at the March 2024 Fontana Regional Board meeting in Hudson County, where Diane became loud and disruptive, shouting at Margaret Carton, the chair. When Margaret finally asked her to leave, Diane refused. It has been clear from the beginning that these members are pushing the national Moms for Liberty movement of anti-LGBTQ, acting as though there's a crisis when one doesn't exist. It appears that they have put undue stress, extra task, and unnecessary oversight over a highly qualified librarian. It has created a hostile work environment with staff leaving, the Jackson County Library withdrawing from the Fontana Regional Consortium, and will cost Macon County tons of money as we try to pick up the pieces. Several years ago, when I submitted a Macon County Library Board application through Abby Hardison, she told me there would be a background check and an interview. Neither happened. I withdrew my application a few days prior to selection because of my travel schedule. But later I asked Paul Higdon how applicants were selected, and he said essentially, we just select those we know. I urge you to create a selection process and publicize it. And then Josh, you responded, and I'll just paraphrase, that you did create a process whereby you now put your selections on a piece of paper, you hand it to the attorney, and he reads it. But that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an interview process. How many of you guys have interviewed and talked to every applicant that has applied for this position? I mean, have you all talked to everybody?
No.
Maybe, okay, all right, well.
I'm sorry, I hate to be this guy. We're just getting to the good stuff too.
I know. But okay, all right. Anyway, it's just, I'm just proposing that you guys create some sort of interview process. I believe that it's fairer, that everybody gets to talk to you guys before you make up your decision.
Kathy Stevens. And Constance Neely, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kathy Stevens. I'm the one that's been emailing all of you, so hello. My husband and I have been residents here in Macon County for the last 5 years. We've both worked very hard to be able to financially invest in Macon County, and we now own 3 properties here and are currently in the process of building a home. And as such, we pay our fair share in property taxes. I'm very concerned with how these tax dollars right now are being spent with regards to the Fontana Regional Library Board. It seems we have a few members of the FRL board who have rewritten the collection development policy without consulting the public or you all as our commissioners, or taking into consideration critical information from our librarians. They have rewritten this policy based on either ignorance, delusion, or flat-out dishonesty. And worse, they have done this with tax dollars. As I have stated in my emails to you all, the new policy opens up our library system to lawsuits for violations against the First Amendment. This will cost the taxpayers in our county thousands of dollars in legal fees, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in settlements. And I know that we have concerns about the budget here. Most egregious, the whole endeavor to rewrite the collection development policy was based on a lie. This notion that our librarians have some kind of ideological agenda. As I stated in my attached email yesterday to you all, we have proof that this is simply not the case, which makes it clear to me that it is not our librarians who have the agenda, but the people on the FRL board who rewrote this policy. The root of the issue, as far as I can see it, is that the FRL board and our own Macon County Public Library Board are led by and consist largely of folks who are not librarians or even worked in a library, and therefore don't have the experience or expertise to create these sorts of policies. I strongly encourage you to rectify this situation and let sanity once again prevail in our library. It will save us all money and time. Thank you.
Real fast, Chris Alamano.
Like others before me, I want to thank you very much for the work you do. I know your decisions are taken with an enormous amount of heart and mind, and I appreciate the work you do. The decisions are not easy. At the last commissioners meeting, I asked specifically, what is the process for filling the 3 vacancies for the Macon County Public Library Board of Trustees? And while the answer did not outline the criteria, I am assuming that you have developed a simple and transparent framework so you can show the due diligence to the public and the consistency in your appointments. I'd like to briefly offer what I see as key criteria. They're in 2 categories. One is values and governance, and the second is skills and experience. Trustees should support the library's mission to serve the entire community and pay specific attention to marginalized groups. Uphold intellectual freedom, resist censorship or partisan use of the board, understand their role in governance and oversight, and respect the role of the staff and their expertise in collections and programs. Take decisions that are based in evidence, support transparent operations, work collaboratively, communicate clearly, follow ethical standards, and be reliable in their attendance and preparation for meetings. Under skills and experience, trustees should bring prior board, committee, community leadership experience and demonstrated local involvement, a genuine commitment to ongoing learning in general, but ongoing learning about libraries and their governance, familiarity with libraries, and a thoughtful understanding of what role that plays. We've heard a lot about the role that plays in our community and the conditions that we have here and the diverse needs. Practical skills from their experience, from their education, that might include organizational management, education, youth services, library experience, communications, budgeting, etc. And very strong interpersonal skills that allow them to listen, to work through conflict, and to support board decisions once made. We appreciate that you may use consistent criteria such as these for each and every applicant, and your willingness to carefully exercise good faith judgment in your stewardship of the importance of our library. Thank you so much.
Liz Brolin, you're on deck. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Christine Alamano, and I've lived in Otto since I retired from practicing law in 2020. I'm here tonight, though, as a concerned citizen, not as an attorney, although I have spoken this week with attorneys from Penn America. They do First Amendment cases involving libraries, and I've also spoken with public citizens. They do a lot of First Amendment work. First, I'm wondering what the rush is for the FRL to pass a library selection policy, material selection policy, and a circulation policy before July 1st. That would mean Jackson County trustees get to vote. They're not even going to be a part of FRL. Why should Jackson County trustees get to vote on how Swain and Macon are going to select materials in their library? What's the rush? Whoever you appoint tonight will be ascending the Franklin Board. They're going to have opinions on the policy. And as you've heard tonight, community members have opinions on the policy. And they have a vote scheduled on that for the 22nd. They also have a vote on a circulation policy scheduled for the 15th. No one has seen the circulation policy. I asked for it. Mr. Magaha said he didn't have it. He's the head librarian, he's the head of the Board of Trustees, he's the acting head of everything, and he said he didn't have it. He had to get it from the committee, even though he scheduled it for a vote. So I have not seen that yet. What is the rush? It makes me paranoid. Second, you should know that material selection policies and circulation policies have been one of the most litigated issues nationwide in the past 5 years on First Amendment issues. If library boards guess wrong on whether they're complying with the First Amendment, the result has been six-figure settlements. There was a six-figure settlement a county had to pay in Wyoming, one in Texas and one in Iowa. I have information about those cases if anybody wants to look at them. So if you get it wrong, it costs the county a bunch of money. I would not consider that a good use of my tax dollars. I'd rather see that money go to library materials, library programming, other needs in the community, maybe this Veterans Memorial, whatever. Third, as Sarah Palin once said, lipstick on a pig is still a pig. And a policy is not content neutral when it segregates materials, when it segregates displays, when it segregates patrons by age and says, oh, you're 17, you can't be in that part of the library, you can't check this out, your mama has to come check it out for you.
All right, I hate to do this to you.
Am I done? Is my 3 minutes up? Oh, I had 2 more.
You did a good job.
Sorry, I'm a lawyer, I can't get through it all in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Heather Johnson. Heather Johnson.
This is next.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you're on deck. Liz. Yep. Liz Brolin.
Liz?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't
Yep,
hear.
I'm sorry. Well, I skipped you, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mary.
Hi, I'm Liz. I am a lifelong Macon County resident, and I currently reside here in town. Growing up, the library was a second home to me in the summertime, so it's always held a special place, and I would love to see that continue in the future for the community. I am heavily disappointed in the current board. I don't understand how costing taxpayers money, costing and harassing staff, and essentially ignoring First Amendment rights would not be fireable offenses. Fortunately, we are in a position that we have candidates with extensive knowledge within the library system. I strongly believe we should not miss the opportunity to appoint a more qualified board. Thank you.
Now Heather Johnson.
Hey, my name is Heather Johnson. I'm from Otto. I'm here to ask you all to please, in the interest of small government, in the interest of parental rights, and in the interest of getting politics out of the library, I want you to consider good candidates for this library board who have the library's best interests at heart and who are here to support access to the patrons of that library, and let the parents decide for themselves what they do. If you all want to think about pulling out of the FRL, I want you to consider that that will make the library under only your umbrella. They won't necessarily have to adhere to all of the rules that they had to adhere to before, which is real great for y'all, but the minute the makeup of the board changes, it makes it to where the library does not have an independent governing body. It has politicians governing what is made policy in that library. Right now, the FRL follows the ALA guidelines, which is made by professional librarians who actually know what they're doing, unlike random people who moved into Macon County from far away and have more money than most of this board. We need people, hometown people on this board who want to increase access to the library and not undermine the library. And we need to have it remain politically neutral and not have different groups trying to get their version of religion or their version of politics put into the policy. If you'll read the current policies of the library, they are very neutral and they incorporate all of the books for all of the people. And that is the way it should be. Everybody who is under 18 has a parent who brings them to the library and can choose whether or not they allow their kid to have a library card unattended. It is not my job to tell people what books their kids can check out from the library, and it is not theirs. And it is certainly not half of Jackson County sitting behind me's job to do it either. Thank you.
All right, we've got 6 minutes. Does anybody else want to speak during public comment? And I'll wait a minute for the other room to have a chance to walk in here. I wrote their name down.
Josh, can I double dip? If it's no, I accept that.
I feel like you made a good point.
I would just...
We've got a speaker coming.
She's already spoken once.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comments? We'll continue the conversation about the library.
Let me, just right now, I need your help. I agree with you about the process. Because I've looked at this stuff in the last 3 or 4 days since we got this out. I think, with Mr. Rodner's thing, we cannot meet as 5 to make a decision about something that we're going to bring to you based on a decision we've already made. Now, what am I saying is crazy about what I'm saying? Where there's a law that says that we have to come and present it to you before we make that decision as a group. Am I really fouling that up, Eric?
Well, I'm not really sure the issue that, you keep, if you say something wrong, I'll speak up.
Okay. The process. I would like for this group here to be able to come up with something to bring to you, but it's a process. But we can't make that decision and bring that decision to you due to the law. I see, and you're saying I'm not sure I'm making a lot of sense, but there's a process that you can't go and we can't make a decision outside of this meeting. We have to come here and discuss this and come up with an answer. Can you make more sense out of what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. I think you're good.
Okay. But the process, I think what our chairman ought to go, and I agree with it, that we should come together here and make that down at mine John's office, McDonald's, and come up to some kind of situation so we're all on the same page.
Including interviews.
But it doesn't allow us to do that, making decisions outside. But I think what you can do, I think I learned this when I was chairperson, I can meet with Josh by himself, and we can talk about things. I'll know where Josh is coming from, he knows where I'm coming from, and we can even talk about who you're going to vote for, who would you suggest. You can do all those things, but I can't turn around and I can meet with Mr. Antoine individually, but when you come up there as a collective group, you can't do that. So the process, we can't make a decision about something as a commissioner board prior to talking to y'all first. About messing that up bad? Okay. So I think what I heard a while ago is what I like, but I can't do it, is that we would get together and make a decision on the process. We could, before we came to y'all and made the decision about the candidates that we're going to vote for. I think we have to let you all, we can't make decisions outside of this group here. We have to make it in here. Public comment, there's a law within that. Now, help me out a little bit there, Ms. Walker.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, all right. But when you talk about the process, it's not as easy as you think, okay?
No, Mr. Shields, to your...
I was just gonna say, let me help you out there.
Okay.
But I'm gonna lay everything out here for the library.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to the appointments as well. But I just want to say that I know this is an emotional, political driven issue. But I just want to let everyone know where I stand. We haven't discussed this as a board to make decisions or anything like that, but I think as far as the FRL, we'll start there. It does not make sense to stay in the FRL and pay hundreds of thousands of more dollars. And I just don't see a benefit in what that would be. You know, you're spending $300,000-$400,000 more a year, and you know, we're propping up basically another library.
Oversight.
And I do have to say that, you know, we've sat up here and said, you know, we don't have any intentions of pulling out of the FRL. We've said that in open meetings. But the problem with that is Jackson County has pulled out of the FRL, which leaves us footing the bill for, you know, us and another library. So my personal opinion is I think that it would behoove us to at least start the process of pulling out of the FRL. We can always say, well, we don't want to withdraw if it's not working out or if it's not what we thought it was going to be. I would also like to see, if we decided to do that, for us to put our appointments for tonight's meeting off until a later meeting. Or maybe not at all. Because, number one, the bylaws state that we have to have 7, but a maximum of 9. So right now we have 9, 3 are coming off. That's going to leave you with 6. So we can still have a quorum, is that correct, Mr. Counsel?
You still have the quorum.
Okay. So, in doing that, I think it would also behoove us to restructure this library advisory board, is what it would be. And I think there needs to be some more equal representation on that board. Right now, we have 9 members, and I think 6 or 7 of those people live in Highlands. So I feel like we need to get that to a level of having 1 or 2 from Highlands, 1 or 2 from Nantahala, a couple from Franklin, you know, however that ends up looking like later on. I also think that in doing that, if we decide to pull out, I think we need to instruct, if we can, our advisory board as it stands right now and the FRL to make no new policies. No new collection policy, circulation policy, none of that. I think that maybe if we could retain some of the qualified people, if we pull out, maybe we should get their input on some of these things. And if we don't pull out, maybe we should get their input on some of these things. I just feel like we've got this advisory board, we've got the FRL, we're pumping money into the FRL. okay, oversight, maybe that's your one thing, but other than that, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for, really not a whole lot of benefit. We're spending tax dollars on not a whole lot of benefit. So I would just like to see us talk about exiting the FRL based on the dollars and cents, based on the money side of things. And then I think we need to talk about our advisory board, if we keep one, how we restructure that if we restructure it, and how we appoint those people when we do.
Mr. Counsel, are we supposed to, or do we, if we pulled out of FRL, would we have to have a advisory board? If we were a single county, would we have to?
You do, well, you're talking about advisory, the Macon County Library Board?
Yeah. Do we have to have a?
Well, if you didn't have the Macon County Library Board, then basically it'd be you serving as that. It would then, Warren, correct me if I'm wrong, does the library board or does the or do you hire the librarian for Macon County?
So currently, the library, the FRL hires those folks.
Hires each local
employees.
county one?
Now, Jackson County, they flipped everything over. It's gonna be a county department with county employees, and then they have an advisory board. So it would depend on how you structured it. And to answer your question, he's correct. You could either have an advisory board, or you could essentially, at that point, they fall under the manager system and you're the board. So I think it depends on which way you want to structure it.
Well, I think that's what Commissioner Breeden, that was a good point, is if we do pull out of FRL, then a few months, then the librarian helps set those guidelines and stuff for an advisory board.
I will say you asked me some tough questions, which is a shocker. So, number one, I can't tell you exactly down to the penny what operating a library would be. I can give you some examples. We can certainly take their staffing, we can plug it into our grade system, see where those numbers come, plug our benefits in, look at the expenses they have. I mean, we have the expenses that are proposed for Macon County. There's also obviously some backroom, what I call backroom charges. There may be some shared expenses that we would have to figure out. There's some things we already would do, the finance end, the HR end, the IT end, to some degree, we already have that function. So to answer your question, the money question, we could generate a figure within a reasonable time frame to tell you what we think that would cost. I will tell you, you asked me, I think, can we run a library? I'll run anything you give me. The quality will depend on the inputs that we put into it. And I would certainly not be very thrilled about the process unless we involve those qualified people that are already in the system that understand this way better than I do. Lindsay and I can work on the money part, Tammy and I can work on the personnel part, but you're gonna need that input if you decide to go that route from qualified people. For instance, your library engineer, the staff that already know that. Jackson County, if I'm not mistaken, they contracted a firm to provide them information. I'm not a big fan a lot of times using a contractor because a lot of times they give you the information that you give them in a different format just to make you feel better about the information. And I think you've got some qualified people, and I don't know that anybody out here, no matter which side of the aisle you're on, would disagree that there's not some qualified people on all sides of the issues that could help you get to that point without having to involve a contractor.
It's amazing at the interest that's going on, that's been shown for the last 5 years, 4 years, whatever, from the citizens of this county about this library system, and how important this is to get it right. And I really, truly feel, one, we save the money. Number two is we get a local control of the library where no other county is giving us input on how we are going to operate our library.
Well, to start with the FRL, just to let everyone know where my position is at on this. If we start that process to withdraw tonight, it doesn't mean that it's finalized. That gives us a year to try to really do some research and figure out which way to go. It is super important to me that everybody here understands, if you came up here to speak, it does mean a whole lot. It's not about my stance on any particular issue when it comes to a certain extent, because we're really here to serve every single one of you. I can say as a pastor, this has a spiritual content to it for me as well. But when I'm listening to all of you as you guys come up here, there are valid points on all sides. So picking the right people to represent on a board is super important. It's not a simple decision. It's not something that can be made just overnight. There's a flood of emails that have come in. I've tried to read through all of them, but honestly, I don't know that I've gotten through all of them because there's so many. So it is pretty surprising that an issue like this for library has drawn so much attention. I do want everyone to understand that, I have read through all the applications, and I do want to make the best selection for the county itself, okay? Clearly, I feel like this process needs a lot more time and a lot more discussion because it's not something that we need to just jump into. Personally, it doesn't make sense to stay. For me, it doesn't make sense for us to stay with FRL to take on Jackson County's portion of that. But at the same time, we got to make sure that we can run a library correctly so that, no services are stopped in the process of this. I don't know personally if we pull out of the FRL. I don't know what's going to be lost, what's going to stay. So I want to make sure that for the kids especially, that they get access to as much as possible. But I want them to have access to the right information as well. So just to be clear, I want more time to go through this. I don't want to make a decision on this tonight. If we have to, I will, but I prefer not to. So that's my position.
Mr. Cave, did you say that Swain County is 6% of the FRL?
Bill McGatt has here,
Is that
the number I've got on the form, 6%.
Is that 6% of the budget?
In the last 8 years of surplus revenue over expenditures, Swain County accounted for 6%, the headquarters accounted for 6%, Jackson County accounted for just over 51%, and Macon County was 36 and change, I believe.
Thank you. So,
and that's how that
to my point right here, it's hard for me to fathom. I mean, I broke down even numbers, but that put Macon County, until I just heard that, at 47, Jackson County at 47, and Swain County at 6. But I can't see how we can partner with the 6% and us carry 94% of the way. I can't see how, if you throw away the emotions, it doesn't, but I will say we sat on record, we paid, I'm going to say, extensive legal fees to iron out a contract that we were satisfied with, that we thought Jackson County was satisfied with, and I guess they tore it up, and we were hoping this was over with a long time ago. And to Commissioner Antoine's point about the emails, I made a vow to myself that I'll reply to every one of them. And every time I opened my email box, there was 25 to 30 more. And that's every time you open it. There was hundreds of emails. And to Commissioner Sherrill's point, you can feel the passion and from everybody. And it's just so hard. And I think that's why it's such a delicate topic that I think you understand none of you or us are taking this decision lightly. But if you look at the math and you look at the numbers, I don't know how we can carry the surplus of a county that contributes 6%. I mean, I'm not throwing Jackson County under the bus, but Jackson County's kind of left us holding the bag right here, and I don't know what else to do. I think we have to start the process tonight. I think we have to, and we let it play out and see how it goes. I mean,
to your point,
I don't know what else to do.
If we start that process, it doesn't mean it's final. It still gives us a year's time to make a decision. So I don't want anyone to feel like we're just making a hard-line decision. But I am in agreement with you that we should at least try to start this process.
Well, I just don't see how financially we can. I mean, we just didn't approve $2.4 million to the schools. We had ambulances and cop cars, and now we're asking for $500,000 or more to go to a library that we're holding everybody tight as it is. And for me, it's not emotional, it's a financial decision. And it's tough.
I mean, that's...
Any other comments?
There's no other way to describe it, Chairman. It is a financial burden on the taxpayers of Macon County for what? What is FRL going to provide to the patrons of the library that would create the additional funding better than what that library, I mean, we own the building, we own the contents, we maintenance the place, we take care of it. What, I mean, why would we pay?
I think we own the contents.
Well, according to the contract.
Put some numbers together, shouldn't we?
Look, I'm going to call order right here. We carry on, Commissioner Sherrill.
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. It's a financial, what Jackson County has, with them leaving and us doing 94% of the funding for FRL, makes absolutely no sense.
The problem is the July deadline.
That's not what I mean.
The July 1 deadline, if we don't start the process today, we have to call a special meeting. I mean, is there any information that we're going to have in 2 weeks that we don't have now?
The actual percentage.
I don't know that I can have you all the financial information in a couple of weeks, and actually Commissioner Breeden will be out of town for the end of the month. So I don't know that, I think you're going to have some difficulty calling another meeting with all the folks by the end of the month. I can certainly, we will start, if this is the route that you want to go, we will start the process immediately to try and put some draft figures together, meet with the people we need to meet with, get some information. I will say Lottie Barker in Swain County has been she's communicated back and forth with me. She retired, and like I said, the new person that just started, and she's trying to help him. And we have just not been able to communicate in the last couple of days as far as trying to figure out how they're dealing with the situation. But I will certainly follow up with her and have some more information.
If we were to make a motion to exit this agreement, does that go into effect today or July 4th?
So
you just have to give your notice today. It doesn't become effective until July of 2027. So you've got the year to withdraw. So all you're doing is giving the notice of the intent that if you're going to give notice of intent, you have to do it before July 1 of before the next calendar year. So that
And Eric made a point a little while ago that is part of the agreement that you approved, but it's also part of the 21 NCAC 308, the state library system. You have to give them notice too, which has to do with the grant funding you may get back from them, which also helps fund some of the projects. So that's the other reason that the year was put in, the year notice was put in.
Just to be clear, Eric, if we did end up putting out, since both two counties would be out, we keep all the contents and everything within the library, correct?
Yes. Yeah, there's a little bit of ambiguity in that agreement in that if Jackson is the first to go out, I think they forfeit a good amount of resources. We revised that agreement so that they keep the books, but anything else that was bought by Fontana Regional Library system, including the computers and the furniture, I think that all stays in the FRL. So I think they forfeit that. So if by Jackson getting out, I think they forfeit a lot of assets of their library that will need to be divided between Macon and Swain. And so we'll get the benefit of that, regardless whether or not Macon, that should happen come July 1. I think that's what Jackson County forfeited. Then it goes to FRL. Then if FRL disbands, in other words, if Macon or Swain elects to get out or both elect to get out the following year, then they would have to divvy up the Fontana Regional Library assets.
Okay, well, in regards to the Fontana Regional Library system, I would like to make a motion that we give our notice of intent to withdraw from the Fontana Regional Library system.
Second.
I hear a motion by Commissioner Breeden, a second by Commissioner Antoine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed?
I just don't have enough information to make a decision. Mine's no.
Please let the record reflect the votes 4-1. Ms. Tammy. Motion passes. All right.
So in continuing to discuss this library, when we're talking about these appointments, are we going to reappoint folks today, or are we going to, if we can do some hold off? I mean, I would love to see us get our librarian involved in maybe restructuring this advisory board.
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine. I think that's fair.
All right, so, well, we kind of skipped me there. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. We'll get to appointments. So, thank you. Your motion is Commissioner Breeden, second by Commissioner Antoine. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? All right, to your appointments.
I mean, if we say no to voting on the appointments tonight, we still have a year of operations in that library system. And we have 6 of the regional board, is that what? No.
6 of the
Macon County.
Can we, if we decided to restructure that advisory board to, kind of put some diversity on there, if you will, as far as the geographical areas of the library, right now, the main representations from Highlands. Can we do that within that 1-year period?
Sure.
And I think that's where we need.
Well, I think if you ultimately withdraw, I think you're going to have to, because then you're going to have to decide if you're going to have the Macon County Library Board. Yeah, are they the ones who hires and makes the decisions to say hire the librarian? Because right now apparently that's done by the FRL. Or does that get done by your county commissioner or your county manager? Do they do the hiring? So I think you're going to have to decide, is that going to be a full board that makes that decision, or is it going to be under the county manager who makes that decision?
Well, I think that right now, the Macon County Public Library Board is an advisory board. I think you keep them that way. And it falls under the county manager to hire them, just like he does every other department.
With the exception of DSS, they have a board that recommends. You as a board still have to approve it, but then you just changed that with the health department, with Consolidated Health and Human Services. You just went the opposite direction with them. So you have 2 examples. Majority are manager.
So who makes all the decisions for Macon County until the final decision is made? You don't have the authority to hire and fire FRL employee.
So your existing structure will remain until June 30, 2027, unless something changes otherwise. But essentially your FRL and your existing processes will remain essentially unchanged until that day. Correct, Eric?
I agree with that.
Now, I will, thinking through that, obviously Jackson County is a good example. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we can obviously see what processes they went through. But you can't wait till June 30 to hire people for the library. We obviously, if that's the route you chose to go, we need to have whatever process in place that you want, whether that's an advisory board making recommendations, ever how you want to process that, that needs to happen 3 to 6 months before July 1, because obviously those folks are going to be concerned who they're going to work for if they're working. You want to make sure you capture those quality people before they end up going somewhere else. And you don't want any lapse in service either come July 1.
Well, I guess the most important question, or part of that question is, how critical are these 3 appointments for the operation of FRL for at least the next year?
I don't know that I can answer that question. There is still a quorum, they can hold a meeting, but I don't know that I can answer how critical those 3 particular positions are.
Well, as far as how they apply to FRL, I don't think that it does. I think it applies to the Macon County Board.
Okay.
And you do, Ms. Keiser makes a good point, you do need to look at the other members on there. I don't know all their expiration terms, so we would have to look at them to see if you had another one or 2. And I don't know those, so we would have to look at that, and we could certainly explore that before we get that information.
But between now and the next appointments, we could potentially restructure that advisory board that way going forward. If we ended up going this year and we ended up pulling out, we would have that in place.
Yes. And the next meeting of the local library board is the first Tuesday of the month, which is August. So we just had one in June, so it goes to August.
I mean, I'm torn. I mean, if,
I think the citizens, and you can throw me out, I'll go myself, but you just said
anyways,
you've had too many emails to read. We deserve the right to be heard in these appointments. And to table that is the
Point of order. Go ahead,
I think if we have a quorum on the board, then I agree with Commissioner Breeden that there's no need in rushing the appointments. Let's restructure and work through the process. I agree with that.
Happy with that?
That's motion.
No.
Okay.
All right, is there a need for a closed session?
I don't have
I don't have one. I've got some stuff pending, but nothing can be discussed.
Hear a motion by Commissioner Breeden.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rangelon. All in favor, raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Motion passes unanimous.